This was quite weird, but as of recently when walking around outside, there will be this random guy who keeps staring at me during my nighttime walks. I usually did this to get some extra steps in for the remaining hours of the day and just passing time in general, I guess. Wouldn't be out there for too long though, probably would try to get an extra 2k steps in and go back home. Anyway, it was like 9 p.m. I would say, and I was getting ready to go outside. This would be the exact time almost every day I would go take my nighttime walks. Having worked during the daytimes really didn't help me with my schedule. I guess I had to work with the available time I had when it was late. I was just walking on the street and I had my phone in my pockets. This would be the way for me to track my steps I get. Like I said before, aiming to get around 2,000 steps for the night just to end it off before going to sleep. There was this particular house I would go by when walking around the neighborhood. It wasn't too strange at first, but then I later realized that some man was looking directly at me through his windows. When I first saw this a couple nights before, I got quite scared, but later realized he wasn't actually doing anything harmful. At least, that was what I was thinking at the time. Of course, every time I would see him just staring at me, I would get that disturbing feeling within me. It was just really creepy during the nighttime darkness. I'm sure many people would feel the same too if they experienced this. I continued walking by and tried forgetting about it like I would do any other time. It always made me curious though. Was this a normal thing he did or something? I had never seen him before all of this creepy stuff, but it wasn't like I knew most people around my neighborhood anyway, so it's whatever. As long as he didn't try anything, then I wouldn't be overly concerned. I completed my walk for the night and would go back home the same exact way. This meant going by that same guy's house again, though I didn't mind too much as I felt more safe when my place was nearby on the way back. So when I was close by to their property, I didn't see the car on the driveway anymore. It was literally there like 30 minutes back before I'd walked past, and had always been parked there when I would see him. In fact, I don't even think I remember ever seeing that guy drive his car. I was kinda cautious when I was going by on the sidewalk, and around the corner of the street when I turned, I could see his car right there. I was so confused because it was almost like 10 p.m. now. I don't know about you, but who moves their car this late at night? I was just questioning this for some time to myself, though that wasn't even the strangest thing. My eyes were adjusting a little more to the car from the distance I was standing at. It was quite difficult to see, but the guy was inside of his car just staring at me. It looked like he was trying to duck his head at the same time as well, which didn't seem to work as I could clearly see him. I was quite shocked when seeing this, and it 100% freaked me out. I started running onto the other side of the sidewalk, just so I didn't have to go directly next to his car when going by. I just wanted to go home fast and without this guy potentially following me. I finally did that and closed my door, making sure it was locked and even made sure I had closed my blinds completely. This was a really intense situation from my experience, and I stopped doing my nighttime walks after that day. I just felt like I couldn't risk it and felt way too scared. I know it is nice and all, but even one experience like this could make some people fear their most normal routine and turn it into a struggle. Many people don't realize that a lot of people have malicious intentions. It only takes the right environment and timing for those types of people to do what they might desire. Even though it might not be the case in this situation, you never know. At around 11 p.m. when coming back from my friend's place, I was meant to be taking the bus home, but the bus stop in his area was temporarily closed. I don't know the reason why. There were just barricades of some sort around it, with the nearest bus stop being around 5 minutes away. Of course, this doesn't sound too bad, but having to walk over there and then waiting for another 10 to 20 minutes for the bus to come, maybe even more considering how late it was, I just didn't feel like waiting around, so I decided I would just walk back home. I figured this would be a lot more time efficient, and making sure I could get back at least before midnight would be ideal. I wouldn't want to wake up too late the next day, and honestly when it does happen, it feels very unproductive with so much of the morning time already gone. I'm sure many people can relate to this as well. Anyway, I was just on my way walking along the sidewalk. My phone was just in my hand and I was looking at it every once in a while, just checking to see if anyone had sent any messages or important notifications coming by. It was around 15 minutes later. I'll be making it back home really soon and put my phone away within my pockets. I am just glad I didn't take the bus this time, otherwise I'll be waiting around for a long time. There was a shortcut I would usually go through, some small trail within the park nearby. It was almost completely dark with little to no lighting, and since my objective was getting home fast enough, I wouldn't mind just using my phone's flashlight to get by if if I can save a lot more time than going through the streets. So this was my plan, I guess. I was walking down the trail and had no idea if I was close to the end. My phone, being pretty old, didn't have the best flashlight quality, but I had to work with what I had, and I wasn't complaining at this moment, though I heard some dogs barking right that second. This kinda caught me off guard, and I stopped walking now. I had initially assumed he might be coming from a nearby house with maybe a dog in their backyard or something, but I still felt very uncomfortable, and it kept me on high alert, especially being around in the complete darkness while alone. It certainly doesn't help my situation. I then heard more barking, but it sounded a lot more aggressive than before. I started shining my phone's flashlight around me, like 360 degrees, just to make sure I wasn't going crazy, and if there were maybe dogs nearby to me. It was quite terrifying to see, but the silhouette of a large dog sitting around the area I had entered the park from made me shake in fear. I could feel my face getting warmer by the stress coming to me. Where could I possibly go from here without getting chased by this dog? I turned back to my front and tried to see if I could make it out of the park, at least before anything goes wrong. I was breathing very heavily and decided I would make a run for it to the exit of the park. I think me just standing there doing nothing wasn't an option for me. Running and getting away was what I had in mind, and I did exactly that, sprinting so fast that I almost slipped when I took the first step. I could hear some growling from behind me with the dog barking at the same time. I knew I couldn't outrun it for too long, so I was making sure I kept my pace without slowing down. The adrenaline was insane, and I don't think I had run like this in quite a long time. I actually managed to make it through the park now and back onto the streets where my home was close by. I couldn't just go out to my door and open it with this dog chasing right behind me, so I tried to check my pockets for my jacket while running to see if I had anything that could be useful. Thankfully, I did. Some spare change and my USB cable just placed within there. I grabbed 2 of these items tightly with my hands and looked back to throw it as hard as possible towards the dog. It seemed like a bad idea when I did this, but I had very little choice regardless. I don't know what happened, but after I did this, the impact I threw it with must have scared the dog, I assume. He just barked very loudly but stopped chasing me. I continued running on until I finally got home and felt relieved. This was most likely a life-threatening situation, so I didn't know how to deal with it. I mean, I don't think it is every day that an average person would experience this and know what to do. Seriously though, what is wrong with that dog? I am so grateful there wasn't more than one of them chasing me at least. That could have been a completely different outcome. Is it just me, or does it seem like I have to act paranoid intentionally during the night times when I'm walking alone? It might sound pretty cringy, but I don't know. Constantly turning around and trying to be aware with no actual concern or fear was what I did. Maybe it was my way of being confident when out there in the dark. Not in a bad way, obviously. I was on my way to the grocery store that night, and I lived quite nearby to a sketchy neighborhood. I tried my best to not go too close to that area. It was quite hard to avoid it when walking to the grocery store, since the road I'll be going on connects to that exact neighborhood I try staying away from. On a common occasion, I will be driving to the grocery store and definitely not during the nighttime hours. This time, I just wanted to eat some Doritos and maybe grab a few bags of it while also saving gas money. The smaller stores close to my home only had the small bags of it for some reason, and a lot more expensive. I'm the type of person to travel longer distance just for a cheaper price of a product, and walking to the grocery store wouldn't hurt me, I had assumed. I was walking outside now, just making sure I had enough cash on me, even taking extra just in case the price had inflated. It's so unpredictable nowadays, and especially for a popular snack product like Doritos. I wouldn't be surprised if inflation had hit that too. The road to my neighborhood was coming to an end, and I was entering the sketchy zone now. That is what I like to call it, at least. I haven't actually had a bad experience being around there, to be honest, but from what I've heard from other people, especially my friends, I just didn't want to get myself involved in any bad situations. It was making me quite nervous when walking by this neighborhood. It was visibly obvious to how this place gets seen in a bad light. A lot of cars that just look very poorly maintained and damaged. Even groups of people in the distance standing around at this time. Nothing wrong with that, but I can see how people get intimidated by this. I personally didn't mind too much, as long as I didn't have any interactions with someone around there. I felt I was good from some of the clear dangers. However, this didn't turn out how I expected it to go, since a few people were walking right in front of me and coming towards me as well. I was 100% getting anxious and didn't want to cross the road to the other side of the sidewalk. I would be way too suspicious. That was what I was thinking in my mind, so I just continued walking there. I thought I could just try my best to avoid eye contact with a group of people coming my way, I'll be able to walk right past them without any problems. Seemed like a good plan, right? Though that didn't work out whatsoever. When those guys got close to me, they called me over, and when I went towards them, they started heavily questioning me. They were asking me where did I come from, and how they've never seen me around before. Me being very ignorant, I let them know I lived in a neighborhood nearby to this area, which I shouldn't have said, but out of fear I just did so anyway. They were just laughing and talking to each other when I said that. I cannot explain how scared I was, but almost every part of my body was sweating. After a few minutes of basic questioning, I was asked to hand over what I had in my pockets. My phone and cash I took with me was in there, so this made me hesitate a little, but I knew I couldn't pull off anything that would make them angry. I gave them the stuff and they let me go, so I just turned around and made my way back home. I was very shocked in my mind to what had just happened. When I made it back home, I got in bed just thinking about it. It obviously made me sad that I just lost my phone. The cash I didn't mind too much, but at least I didn't take my wallet with me. Otherwise, that would have been a lot more worse. Even my car keys too. What I learned that day is to just stay away from these sketchy locations of anywhere. A lot of dangerous stuff might happen, and even worse than this situation. There is no point trying to act like the tough guy, because we're all vulnerable in many ways. Just be humble and avoid any potential bad situations.